press the button. So if you don't want to be on camera, make sure you turn your own camera off, please. And I will be posting this onto our YouTube channel probably first thing tomorrow. So so look out for that. Got to say a big thank you, of course, as ever, to the National Lottery Heritage Fund for funding our Blue Recovery project, which is this Citizen Science Forum is part of. We are very, very grateful for everything that they've helped us to do. So, Jess, I first met Jess, we can't work out exactly when, but it was earlier this year on one of our Blue Recovery days here in Falmouth. We had a fun time down at Castle Beach, get involved with the citizen science stuff. And Jess is the regional rep for Cornwall for Surfers Against Sewage. And ever since we started doing this work with a focus on water pollution and sewage in particular, people are always saying to me, oh, are you working with Surfers Against Sewage? Because obviously these guys have been working in this and campaigning in this area. I'm not actually 100% sure. Jess will correct me, but I'm going to take a stab at about 30 years, maybe, so around that sort of length of time. Jess herself has been involved with Surfers Against Sewage for 17 years as a rep here in Cornwall and also in London. So she has a lot of experience with the organisation, and it'll be great to hear all about it today. So I might just hand over to you, Jess.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen. Also, I just want to caveat this. I've already told Ben, but I have a 13-week-old bulldog puppy currently that's causing absolute chaos in my living room. So if you just randomly hear some snorting or some type of weird noises, it's not me, okay? It's the dog. Just ignore him. He's having a lovely time. So let me share my screen and I will get this up. Okay, so yeah, I figured I'd just start with a little bit of an overview of who we are and where we've kind of come from and where we're at now, and then go a little bit more into our main kind of subject here, which is the sewage. So like, who are we is the main question. And we started as a grassroots charity back in 1990, actually, so really not far off with 30 years. So we're 32 years now. We started way back then. It was just started as a group of guys, was a handful of guys. I think it was about 4 of them. A lot of them are actually still involved with the charity today, which is really great. And they were just absolutely sick of surfing in sewage and swimming in sewage and just the horrendous amount of devastation that they could see in their local environment. They started on the north coast of Cornwall, which is actually where we're still. Our head office is St Agnes now. So if anybody is ever down there, definitely pop in and say hello. So back in the day, under 5% of the UK beaches met the UK bathing water standards. And these 4 guys had had enough of it. They thought, absolutely not, we're not dealing with this anymore. So they got a band of people together. They started protesting and getting more people involved. And within a couple of months, they had enough signatures and were invited into Parliament. So it was quite a radical way of doing it back then. They obviously, this photo here is one of their main stunts where they had a giant inflatable turd made that they ended up taking to Parliament in their wetsuits with their surfboards and kind of shocking everybody into listening. So going with that, now we've obviously developed in 30 years, and there's lots of other environmental issues as well that we are currently battling. But we do use very similar tactics, basically. We are now tackling 4 main points of the environmental crisis. So I guess you can read these yourself, but the main 4 are water quality. We want to demand the end of sewage discharge into the UK bathing waters by 2030. Our second one, obviously, plastic pollution. This has been really in the news currently, and a lot of people have been standing up against this. We demand to end all plastic pollution on UK beaches by 2030. Our third is ocean recovery. We're demanding a high protection status of 30% of the ocean and all UK marine protected areas by 2030. And the last one, and of course not the least, is the ocean climate emergency. We're demanding that the UK achieves net zero, including the adoption of ocean-based solutions by 2030. So these are all huge. That we're very aware that these are big, but we just want to do everything we can. We just figured go big or go home. We made these pledges a couple of years ago, and obviously this start of this decade did not quite go to plan, but we're not letting these go. We're not going to let people kind of just shun it just because we've had a rubbish start to it. We are sticking with these, and we're going to do them, basically. Ooh. So again, like I said before, we are using very similar tactics to what we started with. We have a lot of things in place to help us achieve these four kind of main goals that we're pushing towards. Things like our Million Mile Beach Clean that some people may have heard of, where every year we're trying to clean 1 million miles of beach, inland, coastline, mountain, all that kind of thing. Last year we actually exceeded it, which was insane. It was really, really good, and we're trying to match it again this year. So this is kind of a thing where you can join beach cleans that are already happening in your local area, or you can run them yourself. So if anybody wants to do that, head to the website. As you can see by these other two photos, we are still marching on Parliament in wetsuits and with surfboards, and all of our protests and all of our petitions that we are doing, which Dirty Money is our most recent one. So I just want to kind of migrate a little bit more into the sewage crisis, because I think that's a little bit more relevant to you guys for now. If you do want any more information on the other three, at the end there is I've put my contact details and stuff that you can always drop me a message, and I can send you as much information as you need. So here's just a little bit of information about the current sewage crisis. I'll just read through these really briefly, but I don't want to just throw loads of numbers at you, because I know that can be, one, boring, and two, a bit overwhelming sometimes. So 389,000 discharges of raw sewage into the UK waters in 2022 alone. So these are the discharges that we registered. This is basically what we registered, but there's more, unfortunately. 39% of reports of sickness after bathing linked with the sewage discharges in the area. Sewage was dumped into designated bathing waters over 5,000 times during the 2022 bathing season. So that's May till September. It's not just a risk to humans, but raw untreated sewage can decimate huge areas of oceans and coastlines, which is obviously where the Rockpool project comes in, and probably you're starting to see bits and bobs coming up as well, that you're noticing differences, which is why what you guys are doing is just invaluable to information and data. In the 2021-2022 financial year, water companies paid out a total of £965 million in shareholder dividends. So unfortunately, these are the water companies that are telling us that they have no money to fix the problem. Water company CEOs took home an eye-watering £16.5 million in 2021-2022 financial year. So these are the CEOs that are top of these private companies who earn quite a lot of money already. But this is pretty much their bonuses. And these are the people who then tell us, again, they can't afford new infrastructures to fix the problem. So here's a little bit of a graph to kind of give you an idea of the amount of money, the dirty money that these people are taking home, and the amount of money that they're refusing to put back into the system that we have paid for. Technically, like, we all pay our bills, we all pay, you know, for everything that we receive in our houses. So if you kind of look along the bottom, you can see all of the different water companies here. So we started a petition called Dirty Money, which was calling out all of these CEOs and these private water companies with the amount of money that they are profiteering with off the pollution of our country and of our oceans worldwide. It's not good enough. It's just not. So we started this petition. It's actually closed now, but we've made pretty good headway with it. We had 173,046 people sign it. So this petition then got taken to the CEOs, and I'm going to see if this link works. It might not, but let's try.
We are off today to Birmingham to deliver your message to end profiting from pollution. We come here today to Ofwat HQ with 173,000 signatures, and Ofwat has made a commitment to have their senior leaders meet us next week to discuss our demands. We're here in Birmingham for another reason. We're at the Water Industry Awards tonight because we couldn't miss this opportunity to tell the fat cat sewer rat CEOs of the water companies exactly what we think of their disgusting profiting from pollution. Tonight, the NEC security and the water industry organisers put us in a cage. But we're still protesting and we're still seeing a fair few angry faces from water company attendees and some embarrassed ones as well.
Okay. So, hang on a second. I'm going to attempt to go back. Apologies. Oh, I now can't go back. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to go back to that. So, with that said, as you can see, we did turn up in Birmingham and we did make a point of taking all of these signatures and all of this information to them. They have invited us for conversations, and since then, a lot of money has been said that they're going to find this money, and also one of the CEOs actually has stepped down. So needless to say, it does work. I just want to say this as well, because one of the main questions that we get, and especially as a rep, is do petitions work? Because, you know, signing something online doesn't really feel like you're doing that much, but they really, really do work. The numbers and the signatures and the names behind it and the volunteers coming with it, as you guys all know, probably very similar with the Rockpool project. Like as an individual, you don't maybe, but as a group and as a movement of people, you can do amazing things. So this was our main kind of thing that we've been doing recently. We don't currently have anything on at the moment, but our next thing is in the pipeline. So keep an eye out for that. So with all of that said, again, I don't want to give you too much information and just to try and digest it all in one go. But a couple of things that you guys could do if you guys want to get involved, if you guys want to make a difference and like stand up and say and agree with us, I guess, is a couple of things. First one is to use the Safer Seas app. So Surfers Against Sewage have an app that you can download. It's on Android and iPhone as well. So you can just download to your phone. It has recently just had an update as well, which is really, really exciting. They've basically rebuilt it. So back in the day, it was an app that would just notify you when there had been a sewage discharge. Now it is a lot more interactive and it is a lot more data controlled. So if you are out and you see a sewage overflow that isn't being flagged on the app, you can take photos and submit it directly to us. We can then collect that data and use that to protest harder. You can also email your MP straight off it. You can request different locations. So if there's an overflow site that you know of that isn't on the app, you can request it directly through the app. You can submit lots of different things through it. So I'd really recommend downloading that, especially if you're around the coast and, you know, just walking your dog or swimming or surfing or whatever you do around the coast. It's a really handy app. The second thing as well is demanding change. So this does then come down to like the protests. Like we had very recently a paddle out protest. We had 12 paddle out protests. They were all at midday on the same day, all around the country. And we made national news with this, where everyone turns up and everybody demands something different. This can also come as well as signing petitions. It can just be joining beach cleans. It can just basically be meaning visible, which you guys are, because that's kind of what you do. So yeah, just keep an eye out for the next petition that's coming along. It's going to be a good one, definitely. Like I said earlier, my contact information is at the end of this presentation. So if you just want to jot that down, and if you want to get involved any further with different things, I can send stuff directly to you if you want. And lastly, is just keep doing what you guys are doing. Like all of the stuff that you guys are doing with the Rockpool project is absolutely amazing. The amount of data and the amount of stuff that you are doing is so invaluable to everybody, and it's really great that we can do stuff like this and link up and share our information and share our stuff that we're finding, because it's kind of, unfortunately, it's one of those situations where with the climate crisis, it's going to get better if we do it all together. So yeah, just keep going, keep doing what you want. And then this is the last slide. Again, these are all of our socials here in Cornwall. We have, if you're not based in Cornwall, or you know somebody you would like to get involved who isn't based in Cornwall, there is also, we've basically separated the country up into chapters. There's Northern Ireland, there's Wales, there's Central, there's the South Coast, there's Scotland, everybody has their own chapter. So if you want to get in touch with your local rep, which is like me, or you want to get in touch with your local community, you can just find them. If you head to the website at the bottom here, there is a map. You can find your local community. You can find your local plastic-free communities if you want to get involved with that a bit more. Or if you just want to know more information to help you with the Rockpool project. And of course, my email as well, if you have any queries, any worries, any woes, basically. But yeah, sorry, it's a bit short and sweet, but I didn't want to like inundate you with loads and loads of information. I just kind of wanted to give you a brief overview of what we're about and what we've been up to, really.
Thank you very much, Jess. We'll give you a digital round of applause for that, and for everything that you and Surfers Against Sewage do. It's fantastic. Just to quickly follow up on, you put your contact details in. You were talking about people outside of Cornwall, and we will have a number of people from Plymouth on the call, because we have a Plymouth hub. Annie and Chloe from SAS joined them at their last beach day recently, actually. I don't know if there's any Plymouth specific stuff you can tell those guys about who to contact.
To be honest, you can contact either Devon or Cornwall with Plymouth. You can either way. We because of the board is kind of fluid. We just chat to each other. There's a couple of things that we do together as well. So it doesn't really matter whether you contact us. If you contact me and I can't help, I can always forward you to the Devon lot as well, and they'll be like more than willing to help. We're all just kind of connected in the same bucket, but the chapters just make it a bit easier for you to find who you need a bit quicker. So
okay. Cool. Okay, is everyone got any I know I've got those questions for you, Jess, but has anybody else got any questions? Go first.
Should I stop sharing my screen? Hang on.
You can do,
I can see people.
Sorry, I have a question.
Go ahead, Nicola.
Whether there's a hands up thing on this or not, like Teams.
No, you're in. Go for it.
About 9 months ago or so, South West Water had this option for local people to, instead of taking a bill reduction, they said you could get some South West Water shares.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was kind of going, well, that seems to be like a good idea, just from the perspective of getting an inside view and having a voice potentially. And I kind of ascertained that the previous time that they did this, there was an SAS campaign to say, yes, get on with it and do this. But this time around there wasn't. So I did it anyway.
Oh, brilliant.
but I'm just kind of wondering how to leverage that. So, you know, I mean, my discount off my bill would have been 13 quid. So I've got 13 quid's worth of Pennant shares. And of course, Pennant itself isn't South West Water and isn't regulated. So I'm not quite sure how to leverage it, as I said. So any help with that would be useful.
Okay, yeah, it's very interesting you mentioned this, because originally back in the day when Surfers Against Sewage actually started, one of the main things that they did was buy shares. I don't believe that we have those shares anymore. As far as I'm aware, I'm going to double check with that actually, but I'm pretty sure we don't own those shares anymore. So it's really interesting because a lot of people contacted me when that all happened and said, do I buy the shares? And we did encourage people to do it, but it wasn't a kind of public push to do it this time. I'm not quite sure why, to be honest with you. So maybe if you want to drop me a message, I can definitely double check with it and see how we, if at all you can do it. The only thing I would say is, as a shareholder, they will contact you for certain things. And I would say just keep an eye out for, information or, stuff that you could partake in and have your voice heard as a shareholder. Be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure how we could maybe collate them as a group of people and do something with them. I'm not even sure if that's possible. It'd be amazing if we could. But yeah, if you want to drop me a line, I can double check and see if there's any more information we can get for you for sure.
Yeah, okay, will do. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Nicola. Anybody else got any questions?
Ben, it's Sam. Can I ask a question?
Please do, Sam.
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, in Plymouth. Just it's a quick question about the apps. I'm sure you're aware that South West Water has now done a water fit app. So they're putting out and actually putting out quite a lot of data now, which is obviously a good thing. The question is around the amount of time after an outflow that the different apps sort of give you they still give you an alert or a risk to your health. So I think like we had some heavy rain the other night, so we had outflows at the new bathing water at Firestone Bay. Southwest Water app, I think after 24 hours it stops giving you, it turns back to green instead of being red, whereas the Surfers Against Sewage app is still showing it as an alert now, like 48 hours later. So clearly there's like a difference. And I just wondered what the difference is, like in terms of, do you guys sort of say a different number of tide cycles before it's clear, or what?
Yeah, pretty much that's what it boils down to be honest with you, Sam. So I don't know whether they just want to feel better about themselves. I'm not really sure. But once we get the information that the sewage overflow has officially stopped, we put a little pin in it and we wait for 48 hours. So we have a couple of tide cycles in the hope that will clear and disperse any of the bacteria. So there isn't really any at the moment, as far as I know, there isn't like a legal requirement to how long they have to leave it for. We're obviously very generous because we want to double check that everyone's safe and that everyone is, able to get in the water or be around the water or let the dogs run through it or whatever. So it's actually a new update now that we do leave it 48 hours now. But that's because we are cautious. I'm not sure why they leave it 24 and maybe not 48. Maybe that is their limit that they have. So that's just what they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just obviously I deal with the public a lot in my role. I work for the National Marine Park here in Plymouth, and obviously having different apps giving different things just leads to lots of confusion. So yes, okay.
Yeah. I think we just err on the side of caution, just because we don't want people to get sick. But if people unfortunately do get sick, you can report it through the app. And it links.
Yeah, I've seen that through your app. Yeah.
It links with the location and the specific overflow. So then all of that information gets sent back to us, and we just collate it all for our. We do yearly reports of the sewage and the amount and the severity of it and all that kind of stuff, and all of that information gets collated and put into these reports, which you can find online as well if you want to go and read those. They're not a cheery read, but they're kind of interesting, I guess. They're all on our website if you want to check those out. But that's kind of where all the information goes with the app.
No, that's fun. No, it was interesting because I was kind of watching Firestone, because that was obviously the first overflow since it became a designated bathing water.
Yes.
So it's quite sad in a way, but it's
sad but good to know.
It's happened already, and it's only been a baby water for a month, I think.
I think some of our Plymouth team have collected some water samples following that overflow as well.
Oh, brilliant.
That would be interesting.
Anybody else got any questions at all?
I've got a question.
Christoph. Also, Christoph's raised his hand. I don't know who got him first, but George, would you like to go, and then we'll go to Christoph?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Really interesting talk, Jess. Thank you so much. I was wondering how I was sort of thinking it's an interesting thing, because no one, I think, in the country would say, oh, I don't really mind there being sewage in the oceans, or, it's one of those things that I don't feel like anyone would be against. And so I don't really understand. I wanted to know how the policy is in the like how the UK government's policies work that allow for this to happen, because it seems to me that the water companies are doing this so much. Maybe there aren't severe enough penalties. I don't know. Do you expect something to change from coming from the government rather than just from the water companies themselves? Surely you can't just rely on the water companies to like, oh, we'll be good now, I promise.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? If they were responsible for it. No, you're completely right, George. You really are. It's unfortunate that because they do earn so much money in profit, that the fines that they do get are just petty cash. It's not even kind of hitting them very hard. They're like, oh yeah, that's fine, a couple of million, we'll pay that, it's okay. So there isn't like an incentive for them to self-improve almost, which is kind of what you're saying, I think. So there are policies at the moment that we are really pushing. We have got certain things going through Parliament, certain things are being reviewed, certain things are being written. Unfortunately, we're now up against a situation where they're just being delayed. And because of COVID, unfortunately, they're being delayed even further. There are certain things going through that we are really pushing, and we're not letting go of this. We've got the bit between our teeth now, and we're not letting this go. And they're policies that eventually, when they do go through, and I'm saying when, not if, when they do go through, they will hold these companies responsible. They will have a responsibility to stop it and to build better infrastructures. A lot of the problem that we have is actually due to lack of money being put into new infrastructures. So, for example, Thames Water, which is kind of where I started my reps journey, a lot of their current sewage structure is Victorian, which is not great. A lot of Victorian innovation was fab, and we probably still use a bit of it today, but the sewage one is not great. And we're still relying on it quite heavily in a city that has now quadrupled in size. It's not up to the standards of the system that we need for the amount of people that are using it. And that is the case not only in Thames Water, but across the country. We've seen this issue for years, and we've seen it coming, and they just haven't done anything about it because they've not wanted to spend the money. They would rather keep the money for themselves, which is where the dirty money petition came into it. We do have policies coming through, and again, this all comes down to petitions and getting involved and signing things and basically backing each other up, and backing us up as well with our push, because we already have a toe in the door, thanks to all the hard work that people have done over the years. We do get invited quite a lot into Parliament to have our views heard and to take our information and our data and everything else in. So yeah, the policies are happening, but they are currently delayed, unfortunately. I don't know if that really answers your question, but I'll just walk for a little bit.
A really quick follow-up question as well. I know there was a news article recently. I hope it wasn't just clickbait. Well, I kind of hope it is in a way, but it said that there might be a 73% bills increase from water companies. It might have just been South Water, I think it's called. And this is to fund them to retrofit all their infrastructure. I was wondering what Surfers Against Sewage's take on that is, and is that fair? Is that
no? So yeah, I don't know what the numbers are, to be honest with you on that, but it has basically been thrown around and threatened and stuff that because obviously we've put our points forward and have been for so long, I think they maybe feel a little bit on the back foot, and they're trying to do the best, but they're kind of not. So they've basically said, yeah, we'll do it if you pay for it. And that's not good enough. We've been paying for this system for years, for decades. They have the money to do it. They're just not putting it into the right thing. So our stance is that's not good enough. Like, we shouldn't be putting the climate crisis that they are creating and that they are profiting from, we shouldn't put the weight of that on the pockets of the people using the system that isn't good enough, if that makes much sense. So yeah, we're not standing for that. It is an argument on top of an argument on top of an argument. It is one of those kind of pieces of the chess game, but yeah, we're not going to stand for that, basically, bottom line. And we don't think anybody else should, because it's not good enough.
Cool, thank you, Jess. Christoph, your question.
Hi, thanks, Jess. It's quick question. I'm hoping this makes sense, but I want to try and clarify something in my head, or how the best way to speak. So I think one of your targets said it's something, correct me if I'm wrong, but something to do with no sewage discard in bathing waters, which obviously I agree with. However, I currently live in a place where there are basically no designated bathing areas, under that specific sort of designated bathing area. Now, I have been swimming in the river in places that aren't bathing areas, which means they don't have the protection, which means there is on occasion sewage there, but obviously it can't be designated bathing water unless people swim there. Yeah. But then how do you get it bathing? But do you actually have to go and swim in a place that isn't protected to then get it bathing water? Is there a way around that, or how do you get from a place that isn't bathing water, designated bathing water, to having the protection without it being designated bathing water, and then therefore you're going in an area that isn't protected, therefore there's more danger? Sorry, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. I was with you there. I get that. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure the best way around that. You could, it's quite a lot on you. You could basically, you can get register and put in like an application basically to get it sampled and get it checked and get it bathing water status. But to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure the process of that inland. It's not really my forte, that one. I can definitely try and find out for you though, if I might. Yeah, I guess I'm good for me to know as well, really. I'm not going to pretend that I do know, but maybe maybe not the easiest way would be to try and get bathing water status. Or
yeah, I guess my worry is that if I requested, they would look at it and they'd say, "Do not go swimming in this place," at all. Which sucks, which means that we can never get to that point where we have the protection.
Can I just butt in there very briefly? I am in Plymouth, and Farstone Bay got its bathing water status largely, I think, through the efforts of our MP Luke Pollard. But it wasn't easy, and I vaguely remember along the way that it was one of a number of places that applied for bathing water status, and most of them got rejected. So that there are some really, really strict criteria that I understand you have to fulfill to get there. I don't know what they are, but they must be online somewhere, I would have thought. But if they aren't, then I would suggest you get in touch perhaps with Luke Pollard's office. and see what light they maybe can shed on how they got it for Firestone Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I can just come in here. There is, I believe, Jess, the Surfers Against Sewage. I was at a meeting with some people fairly recently. That there are people within the organisation that are focusing on inland bathing waters.
Yeah,
it is really difficult. So I was a
little
bit involved with the Firestone one, and it does take about 2 years. You have to have a huge amount of surveys done.
Yeah.
There have to be facilities at the site. So obviously, for proper wild swimming spots, there has to be things like toilets and facilities available, which you're not going to have at most of your inland bathing rivers and that type of thing. So it is a really difficult status to get. But I believe that Surfers Against Sewage have like specialist members in the team that are looking at
I think there's some guys on the campaigns team who are dealing with it, but like I said, I'm not really, it's not really my forte, inland bathing areas, but I've just made a note actually to check in with them, and because it's definitely something that I probably should know as well, to be honest with you. But I will try and find out as much information as I can, that's for sure, about how to get things protected when they're not bathing water status, for sure.
Thank you very much, Jess. Ali, you've got your hand up, and I see you've actually posted a link to the Rivers Trust for the bathing status.
Yeah,
issue,
I mean, I'm going to be working with Surfers Against Sewage. So we're already working with Surfers Against Sewage. Hello, Jess, Ali from the Rivers Trust here. And so we, the Rivers Trust, we're creating a database, Christoph, and anyone here, of areas that people want to swim. You can begin the process in dirty water. In fact, you will begin the process in dirty water because it's a UK river. So that's, with the CSO discharges, etc., etc. I mean, it's really interesting. I gave a talk the other day, and Samuel Pepys was writing in the 1660s about turds coming back up out of his neighbour's water closet because of the state of the sewage system in London, and nothing's really changed since the 1660s. But the designated bathing water, you can begin that process, but one of the easiest ways to do that, follow the link that I've just sent you. We're going to be working with Surfers Against Sewage, but you go just register a bit of river that you would like to see as designated. And as I think it was Sam was saying, it does take a long time. And indeed, you can get places designated that after testing and retesting, you're saying to people, actually, you shouldn't be swimming here because of right now it's pretty filthy. But get going, get involved with your any local groups, and I can always help you. But do go and please follow the link that I've just sent you, and I look forward to working with Surfers Against Sewage on it.
Thank you very much, Ali. I've got a couple of questions, if I may. Yes, a quick one to start with. Have Surfers Against Sewage ever taken any kind of public view or any other kind of view on renationalisation for the water companies?
I don't really know what their stance is on that, and I wouldn't like to say either way. They do, because there's a lot of people involved now, and we have got a bit bigger. Obviously, we started with 4 people, and now there's quite a lot of us. I think we try to stay out of like certain conversations. With that one though, I'm pretty sure they would have an opinion, but I do not know the answer to it. I'm not gonna lie. Again, I can find out and let you know where they stand on that.
Yeah, okay. And I guess my other question relates to that kind of which conversations to get involved with and which ones not to, really. I'm trying to sort of sum up my question in a succinct way. I just noticed when you put your big targets up there, and if we take the bathing water sewage issue one specifically, I can just imagine that there must be experts in the industry just saying, well, actually, it's that's not achievable because of this, and I don't know, maybe it's not achievable. But I guess there's a balance for any kind of campaigning organisation to strike, because you don't necessarily want to work too closely with people that might be affecting the solution, because then you become too close to the problem, if you know what I mean. So is that something that you guys in particular, or just campaigning organisations in general, have to sort of wrestle with?
Yeah, it is a very fine line to walk, I think, because obviously, like the earlier question about policies and stuff, we do need government intervention to make this type of stuff happen. We do need the backing of certain political situations to happen for us then to be able to carry on. So it is kind of hard. We get quite a lot of questions come through about where, especially when there's some type of vote happening, about who people should vote for, and we do try our best to support people and allow them to make their own decision. We would never turn around and say, do this, because then this is going to happen, because we never know that. I think it's a similar thing with wider campaigning charities, like you say, that it is a really difficult thing to try and navigate, I think, especially as quite a well-known charity, especially like down here, like down in Cornwall and Devon. People do kind of look to us look to us for help and like a direction to go with certain political situations that we're trying to stay out of as best we can. Obviously, certain history with the political situation has really messed a lot of things up, especially with things like Brexit, but we just kind of have to deal with the hand of cards that we've been dealt now. If that makes, we're just trying to stay in the middle of everything and do our best, basically.
Well, I guess like right from the very outset, it was a very simple message: stop dumping sewage into our seas. And you don't really want that thing that you've had a lot of success with get lost by getting involved in all the nuances of the solution, I suppose. And that's the thing to keep. Ali, can I? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure as well, like we mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure no one's going to go, actually, yeah, I'd quite like to swim in sewage. I'm pretty sure no one's going to vote against us. You know? So,
Ali, can we go to you quickly, and then we'll say thank you to Jess, and I'll just quickly give some details about what's been happening with our citizen scientists.
Just real quick, and again, maybe coming back to Christoph's question, the thing that a local group can do, as supported by someone like the Rivers Trust, or indeed Surfers Against Sewage or the Marine Conservation Society, we're all going for the same goal, is you can be far more rebarbative in what you do and what you say and how you go about applying for designated bathing water status, far more than we could. Certainly at the Rivers Trust, where we do work very closely with government and the water companies, closer than SAS, for example, who are more of a campaign-led organisation. But all of those approaches together will have more chance of success. So go for it as individuals, as in a small group. Work with SAS, work with us, and Ben, looking forward to your stuff.
Thank you very much, Ali, and thank you, especially Jess, for that fantastic talk. Hopefully you don't mind me just giving a bit of updates on the stuff that we've been up to recently. So as you know, and you got involved when you came to our beach day, we've been focusing on looking at the effects of, we're calling it water pollution, but it is basically sewage that we're mainly focusing on this year, and looking at how it might be affecting the wildlife. During the summer months, we've been undertaking some citizen science surveys periods, and doing some surveys on a monthly basis, different types of surveys. And we've got the next survey periods coming up next week. So we've got Samuel, who's leading our Falmouth surveys, starting next Monday, the 17th of June. If you'd like to get involved in that, do give us a shout. And there's a picture of our Falmouth survey area and the location of our infamous Queen Mary pumping station, which is our main focus here in Falmouth. And in Plymouth, we've got Zach, who's covering a very similar survey period, starting on Tuesday, and covering different sites there. In June, if you want to get involved, then you can get in contact with us in a number of different ways. We're all over different social media, but this is probably the best email address to use to contact us about getting involved in these citizen science surveys: bluerecovery@therockenproject.uk. In the June survey period, we were doing biodiversity surveys, and many thanks to everybody that got involved in Falmouth and in Plymouth. We've had 32 biodiversity surveys uploaded. If you did a survey but you haven't uploaded it, I'm afraid that doesn't count. You need to actually upload your data, otherwise it doesn't really contribute at all. It's great that you've gone out there and collected the data. Let us know what you found. We were surveying for true crabs, and some people here will know what true crabs. Hopefully the people that did the surveys know what true crabs are. They're your classic crab-shaped crab, as opposed to hermit crabs and porcelain crabs. And we also surveyed rack. So we got quite a few surveys done, and special thanks should go to Rowan and Jake that visited from Liverpool and conducted a large number of surveys in both Falmouth and Plymouth. But the whole team did absolutely fantastic. We had some good weather. I've been looking at the data today. As I say, we're still getting some of the results coming in. And I haven't really been able to look at the correlation with the distance to the sewage outlets, but I'll talk a little bit about that and how you can get updates on that analysis when it comes. But just a sort of overview of the data we collected, we found 6 different species of crab, and for every species that every time we found one, we recorded the abundance for it. And the most abundant species were the Montague's crab, and this sort of reminds me a lot of the issue that we were talking about last summer, where we were talking about, here in Falmouth at least, that we're seeing less and less shore crabs, which are the most common species of crab here in the UK, and particularly the researchers at the university down here in Falmouth, who've been here for years collecting data, can't believe that there are so few shore crabs. And it was actually the 3rd most common species in our data set here. There are more edible crabs than shore crabs, and certainly a lot more Montague's crabs, or furrowed crabs, as lots of call them. In Falmouth in particular, this really did stand out. If you have a look at the shore crab and the Montague crab data, out of the 9 time searches that we did, the shore crab was actually missing from 4 of them, and only 1 shore crab in 4 of them as well. So there's only, out of the 9, there was only 1 survey that found more than 1 shore crab, which is well, remarkable, I suppose is the word. We don't understand why it is, and then highlighted the Montague's crab there as just make it clear that how it is really quite clearly our most abundant crab species down here in Falmouth, more so than in Plymouth, but still seeing similar things in Plymouth. The Montague's crab is the most common species that we find on our beaches, both in Falmouth and Plymouth. So that's something that I've pulled out from the data straight away. I haven't found anything of particular note in the rack data, but all that I do have the summary data for that, and I'll let you know how you can access it, so you can have a look at the information that you guys have collected. The questions that we're going to be asking the data is we're looking at, first of all, species diversity. So do we get even more or fewer species in these groups as we move away from the sewage outlets, and also species composition? So that means, do the actual species change? So you could have a situation where you get 4 species of crab next to the sewage pipe and 4 species of crab miles away from the sewage pipe, but are they actually the same species? So that's the 2 different things that we're going to be looking at. And I've just spent this afternoon just first of all getting the data on exactly how far our survey sites are from the sewage outlet. So here in Falmouth, this map here shows you our survey sites that just the ones that we've collected data for. So we collected data for a good number across our Falmouth survey area in June, including sites in red here that are right close to the sewage outlet, and ones which are over 1 kilometre away over at Castle Beach there. So we've got a nice gradient here. When I've been calculating the distance from a sewage outlet, for Falmouth, I've only been considering this 1 sewage outlet. You can see another one here. This is data from the Rivers Trust, so thank you, Rivers Trust, for this data. There is a sewage outlet over in the harbour area, but that's a long way away as by sea from these sites, so ignoring that. But there is another one on the other side of the peninsula here, which is not shown on the map, which could be more relevant, but it depends on how the water kind of works around there. So for the moment, in my analysis, I'm ignoring that and just looking at this one sewage outlet. For Plymouth, the situation is a little bit more complicated in terms of the distance from the sewage outlet. We have this sewage outlet called the Eastern Kings Pumping Station, which is the one which triggers the new alert on the Surfers Against Sewage app. And that's obviously close to our survey sites here. But there's a whole load more. In fact, this shot of the map doesn't really do it justice. There's a lot of sewage outlets in the Plymouth area. You guys collected data in 4 sites in the last survey area. These 2 here, which are close to that particular sewage outlet. This one here, I think, is in green, is Barn Pool, which is quite far away from all of them. This is Mount Batten here. And you can see in the site near Mount Batten's kind of like an intermediate colour here. And that's because it's fairly close, well, to this sewage outlet here. So this is perhaps not very valid, the value I've given it here, because it's as the crow flies distance that is measured here. When obviously sewage, one good thing about sewage, I suppose, it doesn't fly that much. So probably need to consider whether this site is relevant to Mount Batten or not. I've got another one here. So these are the kind of nuances kind of need to work out in the analysis. With the analysis itself, same with the stuff that presented last week, and all the data, it is freely available, and it's on our website now. So that's a new thing. We've got a site on our website. If you go to our citizen science page and go to results, there's a new tab called GitHub repos. Some of you, if you're geeky like me, will know what GitHub is. It's the home for all our analytical code, but as well as the analytical code, there's just the raw data if you want to get hold of the data. So have a look on there and feel free to play, especially if you are a data geek. It will be brilliant to see if anybody else fancies analysing the data to answer these questions that we're looking at, or for whatever purpose, and let us know what you find out, because that's again a big part of it is working together to try and find out the answers, not just collect the data for it. So yeah, do let me know how you get on with that. Also, as well as the GitHub post, there's a link to some more of this analysis that I'm showing here. These maps that I'm showing stills of here are interactive, so you can manipulate them, change the base map, that kind of thing. The other thing to mention is the upcoming events. So we have our beach days coming. We just had our beach days, but we've got our next one's coming up in about a month's time in Falmouth on the 5th of August. I should imagine it's the day after up in Plymouth. All of our events, including our citizen science forums, are posted on our Eventbrite page. So if you've joined us for Eventbrite, do follow us on there, and you'll get updates of the upcoming events as and when they come up. And our next citizen science forum is from the Rivers Trust and Anna Seal, who will be speaking to us in a month's time on the 9th of August. So I think Samuel will be putting the Eventbrite together for that soon. So look out for that, and do come and join us again. If anyone's got any questions about the citizen science stuff, feel free to ask them. Don't know how we're doing for time.
Ben, can I ask a question?
Please do, Ali.
As the most non-scientific person that you know,
that's right.
Crabs are detritivores, right? So are there? Do you get like sort of generalist ones that? I mean, I'm thinking sewage is probably quite nice if you're a detritivore, but do you find certain species will congregate and certain others won't? Because say one species of crab, for example, is a real generalist, whereas others are a little bit more of a specialist, and so the impact of sewage can have an effect in regard of how they behave relating to how they are detritivores. That was a slightly shonky question, but I'm a non-scientist, as you know.
No, I know exactly what you mean, and we haven't done any analysis on the data yet, so we don't know what the answer to your question is as far as our own research is concerned. But it certainly is an expectation based on previous research, not necessarily looking at crabs, but all species, that there will be winners and losers. And I'm going to have a look to see if the numbers of species of crabs and of rack seaweeds changes, but it isn't. I'm not actually expecting to find a result there. I think if there is going to be a result, it's going to be along the lines of how you're describing, that the actual communities are going to change, and some things are going to be replaced with others. But that's just an expectation for me based on going out there and collecting the data, and we'll see how it actually looks when I do the analysis.
May I ask another question?
Please do, yeah.
So when you showed the Mountbatten beach around that little headland,
yeah,
from the sewage, from the outfall,
yep.
I'm presuming there's the Admiralty being so in place around there, there must be maps showing the way the tides and the currents will run around from, say, Turnchapel around that bend. Is there that kind of slingshot around there that would bring sewage quite directly onto that, or does it go out the end of that little sort of nose poking out and it actually dissipates out into the wider sort of bay area, as it were, before it might come back in? Does it slingshot right around here? Do we know, looking at sort of oceanic maps and things like that? Oceanic maps, but you know what I mean.
I think my ignorance on this issue is quite impressive, actually, because I don't know the answer for the specific question, but since we've started this, people have said, as you just did, that there should be maps available to answer that kind of question, and we haven't really sort of followed it up too much to look into it. I was chatting to somebody at the Harbour Master's office today, actually, so those guys could be good to follow up on. But I should imagine it's quite tricky, really, to map. I would have thought it must vary a lot. I don't know.
Be really interesting to chuck a couple of little trackers in, and you do that yourselves.
Yeah, one way to do it.
And I just you know, yeah, could be quite interesting whether actually there is quite a strong direct relationship between, you know, around that bit of land and bringing it right on top of Mountbatten. Yeah,
I mean, you could get a situation where all the water coming out of there is just bypassing Mountbatten. I mean, you've got a jetty coming all the way out there. That's where the ferry comes in, isn't it? So maybe it just heads out to sea and doesn't, and none of the sewage coming out here would affect it. But as simple as that.
The ferry doesn't go in there. The ferry comes round to the kind of east of the head.
It's round this way. You're right, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is this all about then? This one?
Well, it's just a pier.
Yeah.
I've never been up there, but it is just a pier, so far as I know.
Probably must serve as some kind of. It's not like a pleasure pier, is it?
No. No, but when you come in on the ferry, you can see it jutting out into the sea.
Mm-hmm.
People just walk along it, so far as I know.
It's not a bit. We get some information here. I don't know who. Well, it was some information from NIWDP OR21. Hello, NIWDP OR21. Thank you very much for the information there. If you've got any, hi Jackie. If you've got any links you can send us with the information you're talking about with time maps of Plymouth Sound, that'd be obviously really helpful for us. Thanks.
But is the issue not currents rather than tides?
Well, I should imagine they interact, don't they? So any information we can get on the sort of general hydrodynamics would be important, I would have thought. But how to actually one thing getting the information, but how to actually factor it in. All we need, in the end of the day, we just need to have a single figure for each survey site of how close it is to an outlet of sewage, basically, or a source of sewage. So it will be tricky to actually, one thing getting the information, but then actually deciding what you're going to do with it is be tricky. And often there's multiple ways you could deal with it, and each one will affect your results in different ways. But getting the data is a starting point. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jackie. I think we're sort of out of time now, but it's been a brilliant meeting. I'll just say thanks again to Jess and a wonderful talk. It's well, I've certainly been really enjoying this format of having external speakers such as yourself, especially from an organisation like Surfers Against Sewage have been active in this area that we're working in for so long. I was just going to mention, actually, Jess, from your slides, just for all the younger people that are joining us, that we did have colour photography in the 1990s. I guess they might have used black and white ones to put it in a historical context, but it made me feel quite old thinking that people would be sitting here thinking that we were living in black and white back then. But
yeah, there's weirdly not that many photos of the guys in colour, and I don't know why.
Right, okay, so they are genuinely in black and white.
A lot of them are in black and white. There's a lot of video footage of when they were interviewed by the BBC and stuff like that. And one of the main guys like swimming up a sewage like pipe at one point, which do not recommend. Do not do that at home.
No, man, that's a good way to get very ill, I'm sure.
Yes, yeah, most of the images I could find, unfortunately, were black and white. So apologies.
Cool. All right. Well, it's great to see you, and hopefully see you at one of our events soon, Jess. All right. Take care then. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Ben. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.